floor is all yours, Emma.
Okay, I didn't know if you wanted me to. So I can't unfortunately see I can't open any other windows. Oh, actually I can open them on my phone. But I think, let's see. We need to, do we need to officially open the meeting at 4:07? And let's do roll call. So Michael,
Yep, here.
Tony,
Here.
Ava. Ava, are you still here? She might have, do you know, Chantal, if she came in on her computer?
Yes, she did. I can text. Oh, I think she just.
Ava, are you still here? Okay, Sarah
Here.
and Justin? Oh, there's Ava.
Hi. Sorry.
That's okay. Justin, are you still here? All
Hey,
right.
it's Justin. I'm here. Sorry.
Oh, hi, thank you. Okay, so everyone is here. Did everyone have a chance to look at the minutes from November meeting? And would anyone like to move to approve those?
Move to approve.
Second,
Thank you. Anyone opposed to the minutes from November? Okay, I'm going to take that as a no. So minutes have been approved from November 8th meeting. So now we want to talk about new officers. So we talked about either co-chairs or a chair and a vice chair, and then a treasurer role. I'm more than happy to take on or to run for chair or co-chair. Did anyone else have thoughts on whether they might want to step up to one of those roles?
I move that we make Emma chair.
I agree.
Second,
Ava, did you want to do co-chair or did you want
Yes,
to?
and I'm happy to put myself up for co-chair with you. Yes.
Okay. Would that
So
work?
I would move that slate of Emma and Ava as co-chairs.
Thanks for your
Second.
support, Michael. Thank you, guys.
Excellent. Thank you. Anyone opposed to that?
Nope.
Okay.
Can we nominate Jordana treasurer?
If only she was still on. Did anyone have any interest in being treasurer? Okay.
Really?
I mean, I'm comfortable with having that as something the chairs cover until anyone wants to step up. What do you think, Ava?
I'm comfortable with it. Yes. Thank you.
Okay. I believe it's just kind of one meeting with the treasurer for the town, and just keeping track of the budget. So we'll have that info.
I just have a question.
Yeah.
Are we not supposed? I mean, I thought that as per the last meeting that we had to actually physically have people that were as a secretary and a treasurer. So I'm looking for some clarification.
Oh, that's a good question. I do think that the Mass Cultural requires that. As far as I know, on the paperwork that the grantees fill out, it just needs 2 signatures I don't think it necessarily has to be like a treasurer and a chair. Shanta, do you know if we have to report to MCC, like who is filling in each role?
Yes,
Okay, well, I have a proposal that we could put someone's name down for treasurer. And then it's not really like specific work you have to do. We just need to put down a name for
I'll
Mass Comm.
volunteer to be treasurer.
Thank you, Michael. Does that work for everyone?
Second that.
Yeah, you haven't seen my checkbook, but
I mean, I saw that Excel doc you made and I was like, he better be careful. Seems like he wants to be treasurer.
just wanna make it easy.
I nominate Michael. If we need a nomination, I'm nominating Michael. Sorry, Michael, I love you. Nominating you to be
Thanks.
treasurer.
Thanks a lot, Justin.
And I second that nomination.
Excellent. Any opposition to that?
So can we vote on a whole slate once we get this? So we've got Michael as nominated, or whatever you call it. I can't think of the word. Treasurer, Emma as chair, Ava as co-chair, and we need a secretary, correct?
Mhm.
Yes. Do you
You know,
want,
we're
And
fortunate enough.
Chantal, you take the
Yeah,
notes.
we're fortunate enough to have Shanta doing most of this actual secretary stuff.
yeah,
So anybody who wants to step up and be the titular secretary, I don't think you're going to be burdened with a lot of paperwork.
I think we only,
I'll do that if no one else wants to.
I'm
But
happy,
also, I'm fine if someone wants to.
I'm happy to do it, Justin, if you'd rather not, but Whatever.
That's great, Sarah. Sarah, I will gladly pass it off. I just want to.
Okay, great. do that.
thank you
Yes,
both. Okay, so should
I
we
think
say,
my stint as chair lives in infamy. So
Chantal, can you clarify? So if we have two co-chairs, can we report that to Mass Cultural as co-chairs? Or do they have only one slot?
no, you can have two co-chairs.
Okay, great. So we could put Emma and Ava as co-chairs, Michael as treasurer, and Sarah as secretary.
I would move to adopt that slate.
Second that motion.
Awesome. Anyone opposed? Okay, that is a go-ahead. Awesome. Thanks, guys. Thank you all for taking on positions.
Thanks, Emma, for leading us. And Chantal.
So now we're ready
Thank
to
you,
start
everybody.
looking at our grants for this year, for the fiscal 23 year. And thank you, Chantal, for sending out that whole panel book. And thank you, Michael, for that Excel doc. So, you guys ready to jump right in?
Emma, I have two questions.
Yeah.
One is the total amount that we have to grant $34,263.
Oh, yes. So, I believe that's the amount. That's what, through the online grant system, I used a worksheet that Melissa, the town treasurer, had passed along, which was like what we had last year minus any of the money we paid out, plus this year's, which I believe the 2023 amount was 5,500 allocated by the state. So that's the number that came out. So for everyone, if you saw on the Excel sheet, 34,263. Chantal, do you know if that is the correct amount?
I don't know that.
Okay,
We should
I
probably
know
be
that's what,
pretty sure about that number.
yeah, I know that's what was reported, when I turned in the financial thing, that's what came out in the equation. One thing I'm wondering about is, so like we awarded the grants in, I don't know what time of year it was last year around this time, but that we gave them a year to the date to submit for reimbursement. So for example, if we sent out the notice in January that they were approved, they still have until January to submit for reimbursement. Does that make sense? Like,
So does
I'm a
that, is
little-
that part of the, well, a couple of things. One is that we've gotten a grant the last 2 cycles and never been notified and never filled out any paperwork or signed off on anything, never heard anything from the county.
yeah, so then that's where the money is. If you haven't received your money. So when the letter goes out to recipients, in the past, it was an email that came from me. This past year, I believe it came right from the grant management system that said, we award you this much, and then it comes with a reimbursement form that you have to fill out in order to get the money.
Right, we haven't gotten
So
that document.
Anyone that hasn't submitted that reimbursement form hasn't gotten their money, and that's why we have so much right now.
So that could create a problem if people start sending in their forms between now and January and.
Yeah, that's what I'm feeling.
The deadline to submit paperwork, my understanding was that you have to have the money spent by the end of the fiscal year and you're reporting. And I know Janet does the reports back to Mass Cultural Council for our reporting for our grant. And I believe you guys are on the same cycle as well. I can double check that though. But from my conversation with Mass Cultural Council, it was that essentially if you don't use it within that time frame, it's basically use it or lose it. You don't get to then submit for the reimbursement after the fact.
I thought it was a year from when we sent them that letter. Let me
I'll
look.
have-
So
Yeah, I'll have to double check. It's on their website. Let me go.
Yeah, I mean,
Go
I
on.
don't even know if we can start awarding grants if we don't know exactly how much money we have.
okay, so I have an email that I sent out on December 21st last year. Then this is just an example, but this is Theater Workshop. The Nantucket Cultural Council is pleased to inform you that your application has been approved for $800. And then once your program has been completed, send your form to our mailing address, which is the town building. And you need to include the reimbursement form and invoices. And it says you have 1 year from the date of this letter to submit a request. So that means that it should have all been in, well, we still have like a week or so. And when I filled out the financial report, that was in November. I'm just being like trying to be transparent because I don't fully know how this process worked in the past. And it does make me a little bit nervous that there could be people requesting their funding for the 2022 fiscal year that we haven't paid out yet. But I think that's also, I don't know.
So
Yeah.
we would,
I agree. Oh, sorry, Sarah.
no, please.
Well, so there's no way for us to, because Michael's entirely correct. We can't, I mean, obviously, I don't think we have $34,000 to give away. But if for some reason we happen to have 20 this year, that changes dramatically what we've given people in the past and how we're going to dole this money, you know, how we're going to decide to award different folks. So I guess my question is, there's nowhere, and forgive me for not knowing, but there's nowhere for us to look and go, hey, this is the amount that they gave us to award this year on the website. There's nowhere
Well,
where it just
They
says
gave
that.
us 5,500 this year to award. But in the
Which is
past,
actually less than we've had in the past, correct?
right, because in the past, we've done this rollover where like, so for example, like I applied and last year was approved. I think I applied for like $360 and I only submitted reimbursement for $250. So in that case, it would put $90 would stay in our account and then that gets to be used hypothetically this year. So I think that 34,000 is because we it's been rolling over when people aren't submitting reimbursement for their projects.
Well, I'm a little concerned about starting to give away money that we may or may not have to give away. I mean, that would be a disaster.
Yeah.
Well, it'll just also make this whole process sort of moot if we allocate things, and then we'll just have to do the meeting over again. So
The one thing I'm thinking is that and you know, this could be risky, but by the time people are applying for reimbursement next year, it might have covered it. I guess that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, might have, doesn't really.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. We don't want to, the last thing we want to do is give away money we don't have, but also I think my other question is then, because I remember this being a thing, but the pandemic things were a little bit different, but I think we want to know if we indeed do have this amount of money, you know, I mean, do we spend it all down to zero? Do we hold on? Like, what do we need to do with it? Also,
I don't
like,
know if
how
we
long can it
can.
continue to roll over? Do you know what I'm saying though? Like, because
I
if someone hasn't, like,
Hold
let's just say Theater Workshop didn't reimburse themselves, right? And we didn't follow the proper whatever, and our email, you sent our email, it's done. Then does that money go into to whatever the coffers are for the 2020 or 23 grant cycle, or do we,
Yes.
like, where does that money go?
I don't
guess is
think we
my
can
other
hold
question.
on to it. I think we have to allocate every year. I think there's a certain amount we can put aside for admin fees. And there might be a certain amount we can put aside if we are putting on a program. But I don't think that we can, I think we have to dole it all out.
So it sounds like to me we need to get a real solid handle on the who, what, where, when of the money.
Yeah, here's an example. I just emailed around to my colleagues. We did get a letter on the 21st, an email on the 21st of December last year, which went to a grant writer in the Midwest. who
That's
does
because
work
he's
for
the
us.
one who put his email on the application.
Right, but then it fell through the cracks and she never filled out the paperwork. So now we have until, it says in the letter, the 21st of December to apply for that money, which has been spent. We have all the receipts and everything like that. And that was $800. So there's $800 that's going to come out of this total right there.
Yeah,
What else is out there? But
yeah, I wonder if it's wise for us to, is there a way to send a reminder note or send those same emails again, because I'm
believe
looking at
that
our records.
Jordana-
I see that we weren't submitted either, and it's the same thing as Michael's. So ours went to somebody, the letter probably went to somebody who's no longer with the organization and just never forwarded the email.
From what what Jordana told me was that she had followed up with some people, but I don't actually know what that means and how and who she reached out to.
Well, what would the efficacy be of awarding $5,500 in this
Can I-
round, knowing that
so-
that's how much money we have?
So just so you guys know, looking back on, because I have the records for all the grant cycles going back to 98. Yeah, 98. It looks like what you guys have always done was grant the funds that you are allotted for that year.
Yeah,
So you have $5,500. That's what you're trying to figure out, what you're figuring out how to spend, who you're giving that $5,500 to. I know in the last few years, Janet with the CDI grant has also helped to fund some projects as well. But it's been, and correct me if I'm reading this report incorrectly, it looks like that's what you guys have been focusing on, not the excess money that's in there.
Do
Yeah.
you know, Chantal, like with the Mass Cultural Guidelines? So what I do know is that the 34,000 is in our account with the town. Do you know with the Mass Cultural, if they require, like, if we allocated the 5,500 this year, what happens to the rest of that money?
It stays in the account. It's
Yeah,
it's in a
obviously.
rollover account, so they don't, it's not one of those use it or lose it grants that goes to you guys. Because you can
Good.
hold the money to host your own events as well, so.
Can I make a suggestion for how we proceed this time around? Is we allocate the 5,500. We do Michael, I will help you as your new position
yeah,
as
thanks a
treasurer,
lot.
to do an accounting on what is outstanding. Of course, at the end of this year, there's no, the window's gone. But then if we can establish a procedure so we have a better idea of what's like. Well, we know by next year there's up to $5,500 out of our account. And so I think we go ahead with the 55, and then we spend a couple months before next grant cycle to really figure it out.
As your treasurer, I will endeavor to get a system put together to confirm that, and not to sound Scroogey about it, but I do think that awarding $5,500 in this round is the prudent thing to do.
Great.
I'm
I
com-
agree with you, Michael. I just, yeah, and well, I have a lot of questions, but I'm sure they're going to all get answered later. So thanks.
Would someone like to make that into a motion?
Yeah, I move that we proceed with awarding $5,500 in new grant monies in this grant cycle and establish a procedure to better account for our remaining grant funds for fiscal year, or is it 23, grant cycle 23.
Second.
Thank you. Anyone opposed to that? Okay,
So just that if anybody's using the little spreadsheet worksheet that I sent around, you can still use it if you go down to where it says balance and click on that. There's a formula there that says 34,263 minus I-20. If you just replace the 32,263 with 5,500 and hit enter, it will work for you there. And then the line that says should equal 34,263 should read should equal 5,500. And then the worksheet will work. And I'm happy to share mine as we go if that's helpful.
thank you. Okay. Thank you all for your patience with this. I think we're all in a similar learning boat together. Okay, so, let's start with, so it seems like the past couple of times we've done this, we kind of run through and we discuss whether or not we want to fund it, and then oftentimes we'll go back around to determine the actual amount. So if that works, we'll just kind of start a loose discussion on the projects and whether we want to fund them, and then later decide the amount.
Yeah,
So
that
the
should be
first
pretty
one-
quick. Yeah, if we just read through the things, you know, we'll probably get a sense of if there are some that people are just like, yeah, no, that's not on the list.
Yeah. So the first one we have is the Artists Association of Nantucket doing their tuition aid for the senior citizen art classes. I know we funded this a lot in the past. Any
Yeah,
discussion?
I think this is a great application for a couple of reasons we can discuss later, but I love that it's open-ended, not tied to a specific program, but gives the participants the opportunity to choose what they want to do.
Yeah, unless anybody objects, I think we should keep it on the list.
Any other thoughts on that? Sorry. Okay, how about Jane Dahl Nantucket Music Festival?
I was not impressed with the application. I'm always impressed with young people wanting to do creative cultural things. But you know, this is very nascent. I don't think they've got a real plan there. I love the idea, but this was a question mark, come up, probably no, and on my list.
I agree. I think a common theme you'll hear me say is it's really asking to support what is in essence a commercial enterprise. You know, they're looking to make money off the project, and I fundamentally have a problem with that. But this looks like a good candidate for the the Mass Cultural Councils. They have a whole grant program on festivals, so we could recommend that they apply for that, I think.
Yeah, I love that idea. I know a lot of times when if we let them know that we're not granting them, we say why, and that could be a good point if we decide not to do any funding, to say, oh, hey, check out the festivals grant. And I think too with this one, like a reason why I would suggest not funding it is that from past experience, like if they don't have a location or a date, that's a little too vague for us, because it's hard to know if it'll really happen.
Not that it's difficult to get a music festival into a neighborhood on Nantucket or anything, but
Right?
I
And like
agree.
with food and alcohol sales, and I was like, where are you gonna sell alcohol at a festival?
Are we
That's tough.
generally agreed to strike this application just preemptively?
I'm
Yes,
okay with,
Anybody not think that's a good idea? Because I'll strike it off the worksheet at this point.
strike away.
All right.
Okay, then we have Marilyn Morales, Always Remember, showcase from the world premiere, some kind of concert, I believe.
yeah, which is out of, I don't,
Yeah, again, no location or date specific for Nantucket.
This was
It
for a
looked
video,
to me like it was,
a video broadcast on the local cable station. I believe.
oh, you're right. But no communication with NCTV, it didn't seem like.
Yeah, I had this another question mark, possibly no, and I don't know if anybody disagrees, but my feeling is that we can probably strike this at this point.
Agreed.
Agreed.
Okay, striking.
Okay, then we have Nantucket Comedy Festival Stand Up and Learn, which I believe we've funded in the past.
Yep, I should disclose that they hold a lot of these programs at White Heron. We don't charge them. We have no financial interest in it at all, but I just think it's important to disclose that.
Thank you.
And it's a great program. I'd like to see us do some funding for that.
I agree. I like that it's a different, diversifies the kinds of arts that we consider. So that's why I like it.
I'm good to keep that on there. Any other discussion on that one? Okay, now we have Nantucket Community Music Center, Early Childhood Music and Movement.
I'm going to stay out of this because that's from my organization.
Okay, thank you, Tony.
I think we should keep it on the list for discussion.
Agreed.
Yeah, I think so too. We've funded this in the past. I love that it's I think it's in Spanish and English, maybe other languages as well. All right. We have 3 from the Nantucket Community School. The first one is Little History Explorers. That is with the NHA, I believe, or using their space at least.
I'm a little confused how we should handle the 3 applications from them. Admittedly, I
Yeah.
don't have a strategy. I know this one is essentially an NHA program, not sponsored by the NHA, but it's using NHA staff and it's using all these things. So that's a little odd. Then the second one, the art one, if I read that correctly, they're actually renting space at AA, and so that's a little more of a community school. And then the Irish Step is has a significant cost for entry to participants. But my point of all this is I don't know how to treat these.
Yeah, I was thinking similarly. Because it's coming from the same organization, and how do we be fair about delegating the money to multiple different organizations, even though they're pretty separate programs?
I think Tony laid it out really well. I think, I probably wouldn't consider myself doing 3 grants for the community school, maybe 1. And I think the one that makes the most sense is the art program. But I would, so I'd probably knock out the number 6 and number 8 and keep number 7.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I mean,
I agree with Michael.
Yeah, I'm a historian, so I hate getting rid of the history one, but that really is an NHA grant, not an NCS grant.
They're all great.
What about the
programs.
Irish step dance? Because that's community school too.
Yeah, I
That's
like
number
that.
8.
Yeah, I like the idea of the Irish Step Dance grant. The
I
wardrobe.
like the idea of it too. Yeah, in terms of
My
like
one problem though is the barrier for entry is already high. So it would just knock it from $550 for a participant to $410. That's still inaccessible to many people.
And we haven't funded that program in the past, I don't think, have we?
No,
You
I
have
don't-
I met with them about something else earlier in the year, and I know that this is, if you fund nothing, this is the one that they're hoping that you will seriously consider. It's the one that they've had the most difficulty with, and I think for them it plays such an integral part in their early childhood or younger folks.
I
think the
moved
other-
to keep it.
Is that the
Just-
step dance we're talking about?
Yeah, I know that one they really want to
Step
figure out
dance,
how
right,
to,
Chantal?
yeah, they really want to figure out how to make that one work. And they did mention that if they receive
I'd
the
like
funds,
to do that.
awesome.
Sorry, I
They
didn't mean to
mentioned that,
interrupt you.
no worries, no worries. There's a weird lag too, so I apologize if I'm talking over you guys as well. But they mentioned that, if they were to receive the funds, that would help them buy the skirts and whatnot they would get some this year and then try to apply for other grants throughout the year as well, and even come back again next year. But they really do want to make this happen.
That's interesting. In reading the application, I got the sense that the program had been quite successful to date and was very popular. But I'm happy to keep it on for discussion. They're asking for $5,000, which, you know, they're likely to get 10% of that. So, but we can keep it on for discussion, certainly.
Yeah, I wonder if we should take a minute here while we're on these to decide which of the 3 NCS ones we want to talk about. So, because it sounds like we've more or less said the Little History Explorers is off the bucket, but the art or the Irish Step are really the 2 possibilities. Is that right?
Yeah, I'm okay with that. I think it's also, you know, I think it's possible that we could give them funding for multiple, obviously not the full amount. We don't have the full amount, but maybe look into something just so that it's a little bit of support for each one.
All right, so for this first go through, shall we strike the Little History Explorers and keep the other 2 for now? Everybody
think
on
that makes
board with
sense.
that?
I think that makes sense.
Yes,
Okay.
Okay.
I mean, we're used to not giving people the full amount. So,
Yeah.
you know, that's not really new.
Mhm.
Okay, so we'll come back to those for the amounts. Then we have the Flying Association from Fonts to Flight. I think that they consistently apply. I like that it's kind of different, and I love that they incorporate art into their flying programming. So I'd like to keep that, but open to discussion.
I agree. I think it sounds like
Yeah.
a great program.
Agreed.
Okay, then we have NISDA Island Pride tie-dye event.
I love this application and love the event. Interestingly, they made a mathematical error on their application. And they suggested that the staffing would be 2 staff for 3 hours at $35 an hour, which is $210. And then the amount they filled in the budget was twice that, $420. So they're obviously left brain or right brain, whatever that side of the brain is, evil at
Artists.
NISDA, which I think we all know, but I'd like to see us keep talking about that one.
Stop.
Okay, let's keep that on there, and then we can kind of go back and do the math and adjust that. Okay, next we have Arlene O'Reilly, 20 years of Nantucket Arts. I was a little unclear whether I think it's a book being put out.
Yeah, and so this is my refrain of it's essentially supporting a commercial endeavor because they want to sell the book. She does suggest that, or she proposes that a percentage, I think 15% of the profits from the book will be donated to nonprofits, but I still have a fundamental issue. And the other thing I thought was odd is she claimed in the beginning of the application that this supports youth programming. And I don't know if that was just a mistake. And it's an after-school program primarily serving children pre-K to 12.
Yeah.
Pretty sure they don't want to read a book about arts up to 2016.
Yeah, this looks like more like a GoFundMe project than a cultural council project. Is anyone want to talk further about this application, or are we ready to knock that out?
I don't know, I'm kind of torn. Like, I do think that it is a for-profit project, but I don't know. I think it also like, I think it could be a beneficial kind of creative endeavor.
Well, in full disclosure, my organization is on the list, as I think are a couple of others here that would theoretically benefit from the 15% to nonprofits, just to disclose that. But
I think one of the things to think about too is last year we had a proposal for somebody wanting to do a children's book. And we declined that application primarily because we could only fund a fraction of what it was, much like this. And the fear was that if it's not enough to make a substantial impact on the budget, then the project is likely to fail. And so I don't know if that's the case here or not.
Yeah, that's actually a great point, because I'm looking at the breakdown of the budget, and I mean, with the amount that we have this year, I don't think it's really feasible to help very much. I'm okay to strike it.
anybody want to keep it on the list, or can we go ahead and knock it out?
I'm okay to strike this.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, Small Friends on Nantucket, increasing exposure to art. I think this was just generally kind of purchasing some more art supplies.
Yeah, I think it was about expanding to include clay art. I think it was the thing. I think it's a good idea. I like it.
Same.
Yeah, I think it's worth considering, and they did break down the budget too. So if we didn't have enough to do all of it, there's some certain things, like if we just wanted to do kind of the clay and sculpting stuff, we could.
Yeah, I think any amount that we give to this program is going to be helpful to them.
Okay, then we have the Cahoon Museum of African Art. No, sorry, American Art. A wampum exhibit. I believe it was in Cohasset.
Yeah, it's on the Cape. I'd love to find a Wampanoag based project to fund, but this one is, you can't get there unless you take the kids on the boat and rent a car and drive down. It's kind of not really local.
Yeah, I think they mentioned like certain schools that they had maybe already scheduled a field trip with. So if they had done that for our schools, maybe that would be a different story.
Mhm.
But I don't know that our community is really going to get the benefit from that.
I agree. I was found it interesting also that they said the money was to be used for free admission, but if they didn't get it, then they just wouldn't give free admission. So it's not really about the program, it's about offsetting their admission, which was kind of weird.
I also thought it was interesting. They said that they were applying to 6 cultural councils, and then they listed 6 that we weren't on. So it sounds like hopefully they'll get some help elsewhere. Or
Well, if anybody's connected to the Wampanoag community on the island, I would love to see a program.
Well,
here, a
we
cultural-
don't have a Wampanoag community on the island, Michael, but we are bringing a small group of Wampanoags to the island in partnership with the Land Bank. Mariah Mitchell Association we're going to have an artist residency program this fall that I'm putting together. So that will be the first time we've really had them. Second time we really had them on the island. The first one, one of them, Robert Peters, came in for the film festival, but it's a huge hole. I absolutely agree with you. So if you want to be more involved in that, obviously we'd love your help. But that's the only thing I'm aware of in terms of their presence on the island.
Okay.
The NHA did a great programming with them this past summer.
Yes.
That was very interactive as well. I
Right.
would have loved to have seen them apply or for something like that. Would be really
Yeah.
neat.
I'm gonna talk
Can I
to you
interject
about next year.
really quickly before you guys move forward? Because I was able to pull
Yeah.
those reports for you about the balances in the accounts, just to make this as efficient as possible. So it looks like as of June of this year, there hasn't been any movement in the account. The last reimbursements came through November 3rd of 2021. And that was for 2750. So even in that period, all the funds weren't spent. So the full amount that you guys were granted last year, if you just take that piece out, then you'll know what you have left to spend this year. And if
So
people
no
don't,
one.
Mhm.
So no one from fiscal 22 got
has
reimbursed?
some, yeah.
Okay.
And I emailed Melinda just to clarify that that is actually what she's saying, because that's I don't know if that's normal, but I know if I put on a project and I get a grant, I'm definitely applying for the money for the reimbursement.
Oh.
You know, so I wonder if there's a breakdown in the communication. You know, as it's hearing from Tony and Michael's perspective, with it going to grant writers, but it looks like there's a little bit of work to do with this that I'm happy to help support you guys with going
Well,
forward.
Yeah, the
Sounds like a
good
good
news
winter
is,
project.
yeah, as your treasurer, the good news is that we know we have $5,500 to grant this year, and then next year, if we work through the issues and get the math right, we'll be able to say, hey, this is going to be a big year for the Cultural Council and do that.
Yeah.
So I think we're on the right track, sticking with the 5,500 this year.
Yeah, I'd rather like not spend what we don't have, and then next year we can give more if we figure out that it's available.
Mhm.
Perfect. And just so you know, if you take out this year's, you have I'm sorry, I'm working on actual calendar year, not fiscal year, so pardon me. So yeah, let's if you take out this fiscal year, you actually have 28,000, like truly have $28,000 in that account.
So that
So
would have been
that's
from
when-
like previous year rollovers before fiscal 2022.
Can I make just a quick suggestion then, that if it's possible to send a reminder email with the process and the forms to last year's grantees, because if nobody did it, that's a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I think that is something we can try to schedule at a next meeting. Hopefully we can be consistent again this winter about meeting regularly and really like ironing out some of the details of our cycle and how things work.
Yeah, but I mean more, because until the 21st, everybody that got a grant last year.
Well, I
and-
was gonna ask to whether we could extend that, and I don't know if Mass Cultural would allow that, but it seems like if we have the money in our account, we're not spending it on this year's grants. If maybe as a local cultural council, we could extend that to folks who didn't apply for reimbursement, because that just seems unfair to not give them the money, especially like you said, Michael, you did the program, you paid for it, you have the receipts. It would be nice to be able to give that money out.
Yeah, and it would be nice to get it. So, yeah, I think that if we can do something to encourage this past cycle's grantees to fill out the paperwork and get their money, I think we should.
Yeah. Shanta, do you know, is that something you would have to look into, or do you think that would be okay for us to do?
I think that falls under their special circumstances, so we'd have to ask for permission. My recommendation is to not bring attention to the fact that you haven't spent. This is historically what has happened, and you haven't spent all the money, because it would be really unfortunate for them to actually say, hand us that money back.
Yeah. Honestly, like I don't think it would matter, like if we did it on the DL and say this winter we were able to reimburse the programs from fiscal year 2022, it would just show on next year's money that we gave it all out in 2023. They don't have to know.
Well, why don't, you
Exactly.
know, we have the money to cover it, certainly, so why don't we just, you know, I don't know if Chantal does that or Emma or somebody else. Why don't we send reminders to all of the grantees from the last cycle right away and say, hey, we really want to give you this money. Click here and fill out the form, and you know, you'll have your money.
Yeah. I'm comfortable working on that. I don't, you know, it's only a week before the time when we told them. So I'd want to give them a little bit time. But yeah, I can definitely make that happen.
I can tell you that we'll turn ours around really quickly.
I suspect that's true of most people. I think most people just don't know they have to do that.
Right. Justin, they said nobody filed their paperwork and got their money this past cycle.
I just sent a text message because I'm trying, because I thought we had a conversation in our office about this, but I mean, my thought is to just like an email just get dropped where like everyone thought that the reimbursement went out and it didn't. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like that the, hey, do this went out and it didn't actually go out, because it just seems, but then that doesn't make sense because Emma, you have emailed.
No, the letters went out on the 21st, but that was the last communication as far as I know, at least from my end. And I do think that,
Right.
you know, that's tough if you have to remember it come the following year to apply.
Yeah.
Right.
And
I
maybe we
wonder-
could- sorry, go ahead, Chantal.
Thank you. I was going to say, I wonder if some of the confusion comes from the split support of these grants, because I know that all of the folks that received funds from the cultural district, they all submitted their reports to Janet for her to submit her report at the end of the fiscal year. So I could definitely see folks getting a little confused, thinking just by submitting it to Janet, that's the end of it.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
and-
you know what, actually, because that conversation, sorry, Michael, but that was the conversation with us, Chantal, about an EDI grant versus this. And I think that could be the confusion with some of us. But it still doesn't explain why in years past it did work and it didn't this year. And it is like everybody. So.
Oh, I'm sorry. Is it the case that in years past, we have any record of when people submitted the paperwork? Because it would just seem to me that a lot of people think of that date as the date they're going to do it. And it's not that we necessarily would have seen the money before next week. I mean, seen the applications for reimbursement, excuse me.
What was,
One,
Can you say
sorry to interrupt. One interesting thing is I looked, and apparently we did submit ours in April. And so I've got the signed reimbursement form and the letter and all that stuff. So I didn't do it. It was one of my staff members that did it, but we did fill it all out. I don't know if it was emailed or how.
Yeah, and I don't know that we didn't do it. I just know that we got the initial letter up. For all I know, our staff, who are, you know, all over the world, did submit. And because I remember asking Jordy a couple of times during the course of the year, hey, Jordy, where's my money?
yeah. I know
So-
there was kind of a lag with the Treasury being able to get the money out. I know personally, like I submitted my reimbursement and I got a check. But I don't remember when I submitted, probably in January.
Well,
But who
among other
knows?
things, I'd suggest that in the new year, maybe the executive committee get together and create a calendar for the year, and that we, you know, send out reminders to folks who haven't gotten their stuff in June, or track the dates of their programs and remind them around that time or something like that. It's easy to do digitally. Just got somebody.
Yeah, that's actually something that Ava and I have talked about. getting on track
wanted to
with.
put it together, a calendar, and also I think an announcement to local news. Like I'd really love to have the current and Nantucket About Town and maybe ACFM like put something out for us that this is happening. And I feel like we wouldn't really have to pay because it's interesting news.
Interesting that she leaves the Inquirer and Mirror off the list of local news. Very
I
interesting.
know, I get in a lot of trouble for that, Michael.
Okay, let's just get
I'm
back
with
to
you.
our grant stuff, because this is all, I think, it's all so new to us without Jordana that we have a lot of work to do at future meetings, but yeah, let's get back to this.
All right, so where we left off was we had dropped out, we're dropping out the Cahoon Museum, is that correct?
I think so. I'm okay with that. Any other thoughts?
No, I have us as dropping 5 by now, so that makes sense.
Okay. And they are,
Okay, so we have the Nantucket Book Foundation for their visiting authors program. I'm comfortable continuing to fund that.
keep them on the discussion list, yeah.
Theater workshop, props for holiday musical.
I think we should keep it on.
I'll
the
remove
list.
myself from this.
Agreed. I think we should keep it on.
Right. John Waterman, live music making history live.
This did-
Yeah, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, please.
I was just gonna say this falls under my commercial enterprise. Plus, it's just not planned.
Yeah, I'm very comfortable striking this.
Anybody object to striking it? Okay,
I do think it's funny that he thinks that ferry and lodging will only cost $200.
yeah. I also like that he put money in for picks, cables, guitar strings, stuff like that.
Okay, and last but certainly not least, White Heron Theater for the Young Playwrights Festival.
I'm recusing from this.
I would love to keep that in there.
As would I. I think it's a great program.
Okay,
All right.
so
I have a question. When we go back, so breaking it down now, we have 11 viable applicants. And so should we do it the way I think we did this last year, which is we just sort of allocated $550 therefore per applicant, and then it just sort of went up or down depending on what the budget ask was.
okay, Emma, are you comfortable with me sharing this spreadsheet at this point?
Yeah, that would be great.
So we can kind of work through that. All right.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right, everybody see that okay? Maybe I can get it a little bigger. That's a little bigger.
So at this point, if there's 11, it sounds like that's $500 per application.
Yeah. Should we fill that in all the way down and then work our way through?
Yeah.
Okay. I like to, I'm kind of anal retentive about having dollar signs on these things. Okay.
And then do we want to kind of do low hanging fruit, like the smaller amounts first?
Sure.
So one thing. Oh, okay. Do you all remember if we can pay for travel and lodging? I know there's certain things that are not included.
I believe we don't, and that's why we wouldn't pay for the book foundation last year for the airfare, but we gave them the grant towards something else.
Okay, because I'm looking at the Book Fest now and they say that they've applied for the $10,000 from the golf club. So if awarded 500 from the Cultural Council, we would use the funds to supplement the cost of the author's travel and lodging. But that doesn't necessarily mean that we can't just give them 500 to use.
Yeah.
Are we comfortable giving the full 500 to Book Foundation, or because we're probably not going to be able to give full amount to anyone else?
Well, can we go back and talk about the community school again for a second?
Yeah.
Because that's a couple of, one of them's a huge ask, and they're both pretty significant.
Yeah.
Do we want to fund both of those programs? Do we want to pick one or the other? I think that might be a way to start reallocating a little bit.
Okay. I think it's good to look at like the individual budget breakdowns that they have too. Let me.
And I'm
See.
sorry, Mike, at some point, can you go back over the bad math for NISDA, just so we know what we're allocating there?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah,
NISDA's ask was $210 over what the actual cost they presented was.
So
So it's
should we just change the requested amount?
we could, so that would be 536 would be the actual amount that was on their budget. I think I only checked the math on that one thing, so. But it's a great program and it's not an unreasonable amount of money, so. But I'm happy to change that number to that actual number if folks want.
Yeah, I'm just trying to find that to double check.
Yeah,
Okay.
please double check my math, just because I'm.
No, you're 100% right. You're 100% right.
Okay. Yeah, I think that would be a good idea to just go ahead and change the requested amount.
Right.
Okay. Do we want to keep talking about the NISDA or go on to the community school?
I think the community school is
Community school.
really where we're going to find money to reallocate. So let's go there.
Okay.
My
Okay,
middle name
so-
is O'Brien, and I love Irish step dancing and everything. But my personal feeling is that, yeah, I thought in their application they represented that the program was very successful, has been very successful, and that's great. It's a great program. I mean, they're all great programs. But if I were to cut one of those community school programs, that would be the one I would cut.
I would not cut it.
I would consider maybe, so. Okay, my gut thought was to just maybe give them some money for fewer skirts, but then I'm wondering, like, if not all of them can wear the skirts, then does it really make sense to only partially fund it?
Can I just also, this is probably sounds really unintelligent, but I mean, it's 3 different applications. I mean, I know we've already struck down one, but I mean, in all fairness, shouldn't we focus on the one that actually impacts the actual, or that feels closest to the organization? I don't know I'm not wording this right, but because I mean, I understand what Michael's saying, even though I also get what you're saying, Ava. But I don't know. It just seems like it feels like throwing darts until something sticks for it to get funded.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I take your point, Justin, because one is at the NHA, one's at the Artist Association, and then this one actually is held at the community schools facility here. My problem though is they're asking for funding of these skirts. They want 65. We can afford to give them 6. Is that useful or not? And that's really the question.
I don't think so.
The other issue I really have though is, so right now they're paying $525 per student, and this would allow with 65 skirts would allow them to drop it to $415 per student. And when you look down the list of all the others, it's free to participate, free to participate, free to participate, free to participate, free to participate. This is the only one that actually would cost money for participants.
I also think in our ongoing conversation of our finances, we might be able to say, hey, don't write this, like, don't take this as a no forever. Keep applying. We could also ask them to clarify, like, would it be helpful for some money for fewer skirts next year? And this year, since we're, we don't really know how much we have and we're just sticking with the 5,500, then maybe we just cross them out, because 6 skirts is really not gonna do much for them, I don't think.
Actually love that idea. I love the idea we have more money next year to spend to make more impactful decisions on projects.
I do too. I mean, devil's advocate is 6 skirts is 6 skirts, or whatever we can find is that just closer to their goal. But I agree, and I'm still back at the 3 different applications, and just feeling kind of like, well, what will they pick? I don't know. That just feels a little odd to me.
Yeah.
I'm sure the NHA could afford to buy them 64 skirts. But
Any more thoughts on this?
well, I would make a motion that we decline the Irish Step Dance application at this time and encourage them to reapply next year.
I would second that.
Okay. Is anyone opposed to? Okay, then let's go ahead and scrap that. And let's look at the Young Art Explorers. Do we still have interest in funding that program?
I do. I think it's a good program, and it would be good to give out of the 3 applications, to give them money towards something like that we can make a difference with.
I agree. I mean, I
Do
think
we think-
500 is going to be appropriate for that, or something like that.
Okay. Do we want to just leave it at 500 for now and circle back?
Yeah, you were talking about low hanging fruit there, Emma, which is a good idea, I thought. I mean, we've got NISDA.
Yeah, I mean, because no one's
Yeah.
asking for less than 500.
Right. I mean, are we good giving NISDA $500?
Yeah.
That'd basically fund that, okay.
Yes.
I'd say the same with Small Friends as well.
Small.
Sorry, now it just gets hard to find all the applications if we want to go back. The book foundation, do we want to do the 500 for them, then, since that's all they asked for?
I would.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, so I guess I like to look and see, like, on their budgeting, like what that might cover for things, so if we want to look at some of the rest of them.
The senior
Uh,
citizen art class at the Artists Association, they asked for 2,500 for that program. What,
Yeah.
since you've got that, the book open there, what, did they talk about if they didn't
So-
get the full amount, or?
I think that's the amount we gave them last year towards the same program, and it must have worked. So
The 2,500?
I believe they applied for approximately the same amount last year. It was something where we were just giving them like 1/5 of it, but it helped them.
Yeah, I'm looking at their budget and they allocate a large amount, $2,000 for the artists, the instructors, but then $450 for the materials, and so on going down. They do, in answer to your question, they suggest they would just scale back the project. You know, just basically they just wouldn't be able to give it out as much money to the seniors. But it sounds like 500 would cover the cost of the materials in their budget.
Yeah, we could even do, if we wanted to do 450 and just say, okay, we'll pay for the materials fee.
What does everybody think about that?
I'm gonna always advocate the adult or senior citizen thing. So I think they should just get the 500, like we're giving, sort of as a minimum amount, just because the ask is so big. So
I tend to agree. I think it's the only specifically focused on senior citizens on the list.
As a senior citizen, I would agree.
All right, let's keep that at 500. And I'm gonna go to stand up and learn.
I think 500 works for that, with that one too. I know it'll help them.
Yeah, there's any number of line items that it could be applied to. They have $1,500 for instructor fees, 500 for admin fees. Taking out the instructor, travel and accommodation, 500 marketing, $100. Yeah, there's plenty of places for them to.
I mean, I guess the question now is like, if there is there anything that we would do for less than 500, and if there's not, then it's just going to be 500 across the board.
And we've still got 500 to allocate.
Yeah, there's potential for adding $100 to 5 of the projects.
Oh,
more.
right. Okay.
Yeah, the balance number is showing us what we have left to add.
Wait, but, oh, there's only 10. Are there 10?
Yeah, there's only 10 now.
Oh, because we got rid of the Irish stuff. Okay, okay. Okay. So maybe we look at some of the larger ones to see if we want to tack on another couple $100.
Do we, well, can we look at Flying Association for a second and agree that 500 is an appropriate amount for them?
Yeah.
I think that's an easy one to knock off. Everybody all right with that?
But yeah, I just want to check and see what their thing is. Tony, do you have that pulled up? Oh, here we go.
Yeah, I think 500 essentially covers all of their supplies, which is great. So they have all their supplies, then 250 for their instructor. So really would be paying for almost all their supplies.
Okay.
All right, so make that 5.
Should we go to White Heron?
I'm gonna stay out of that conversation.
Um,
So there's not a single line item that is at the $500 mark just because it's such a big program. 13,000 is the whole budget, and they're only asking for 800. And so I'm just glancing through. They requested a $5,000 grant from Tuppence. And there's a viable path for covering the actors' fees if we don't give them the cash.
yeah, I'm fine with the 500.
Yeah, I think 500 is good. And if given the size of the budget and the modest ask, it could be a place to allocate an extra 100 if we get to that point.
Michael, I don't know if you feel comfortable speaking on this, but do you know where the 800 ask came from?
Yeah, it just seemed like a reasonable amount of money, and it's what we've gotten for the last couple of years for that program.
Okay. That makes sense. But I assume 500 would be better than nothing. Useful. Okay. So we have Stand Up and Learn, early childhood music, and props for TWN.
And Young
Any-
Art Explorers too, right? Community school, have we made a decision on that?
Oh, yes. I don't think so.
So that's an interesting one that might be a candidate for the extra 100. One of their line items is space rental. They're going to rent the space from Artist Association to total $600. So a $600 grant would cover the space rental.
Oh, that's a good idea.
All right, should we plug 600 in there?
Yeah, let's do that for now.
Yeah.
Let's see, did we? What do we think about stand up and learn? Do we want to add more? I think that
Hey, here's
know,
an
to have
idea. What if we gave 100 each to the comedy festival and the music center and 200 to theater workshop? I happen to know that theater workshop is going to do a project that this grant is for, that's going to be very community based and affect a lot of people in the community. So
The
Yeah.
only thing I would say is I would just like to see, even if it's $50 extra go to the senior citizens thing. So maybe we could break down the 200 and give them 150 at theater workshop and give 50 extra to the Artists Association just as a nod.
Okay.
so should we see what that looks like?
Yeah.
That's what that looks like.
Anyone have opposition to anything on there?
I think it's pretty even-handed and well thought out.
Okay. How do we feel about approving this?
So moved.
Approved.
I'll second that.
Anyone opposed? All right. I think we did it.
That might be a new land speed record in allocating these grants.
Yeah, that was amazing.
Do you want me to
So,
send
you
this
know, I just
around
wanna
so
add-
folks have a reference to it?
That would be great. Thank you.
For the spreadsheet, Michael, that made everything.
Yeah.
amazing.
Justin, go ahead. Okay. So the next steps are, Ava and I will work on, first we send out the denial letters, or that sounds harsh. I don't know what the word is. On the grants management website, we can go in and let people know that we didn't choose to fund them and say why. And then I believe it's, 15 days. We have to wait in case they want to kind of,
Appeal.
yes, thank you, appeal that decision. If there are no appeals, then we go ahead and send the approval. And it seems like last year I did them via email. I'm not sure if they've updated that on the grant system yet, but we'll do that. Before then, I'm happy to send out reminders to our fiscal 2022 grantees and have them make sure to send that reimbursement form into the town. And I'd love to work with Chantal on that. Maybe we are able to find out who did submit and who did receive their money, or see if maybe their money hasn't left the treasurers yet. But it would be good to get that sorted as soon as possible. And if anyone wants to help with that, I will definitely fill you all in at the next meeting.
I'm happy to need any, Emma.
Okay, thank you. And then, yeah, I think it would be really good for us to get some kind of calendar set up of our grant cycle and when we want to be letting people know the grants are available, how we want to do that, when we want to remind them to apply for reimbursement, all that kind of stuff. So would you guys be comfortable meeting again, maybe mid to late January at some point?
I think it's a great idea.
Yes.
Yeah, I really think if we can keep up monthly meetings throughout the off season, that would be really strong for us.
Great. And I would just let you guys know, like, my priority is to make this grant cycle run as smoothly as possible and to really get the word out. But if there's other projects that people are passionate about or want to do, I know, Michael, you talked about maybe doing some more fundraising for us to have more money. And Ava, you have lots of ideas about events and collaborating. Like, if we can, yeah, if anyone wants to get stuff done, we're here to support one another on that.
Emma, I'd love for us to meet, the two of us, to talk about the calendar so that we could create a template for that together, given your longer tenure with the council before our next meeting. Would that be possible?
Okay.
What do you think?
Thank you.
Yes.
Ava.
I believe we're able to do that as like a subcommittee, I think.
Yeah. Just so that we can create like more of a template to create a little bit more of a timeline for how we want the year to flow in terms of both promotion and our activities. So my ideal
Yeah.
would be that we have that and we can say, okay, guys, like this month we're looking at this month we're getting the word out, and there's like a nice chunk of
Yeah,
time
exactly.
for everyone to do that. Because I do kind of feel like it's like we're not doing anything. Okay, we have to do all this at once, was kind of like the experience this year.
Yeah.
And if we can space that
And
out and say,
also,
oh, okay,
like-
and then I think each of us could look in and be like, okay, like these are the things that I could, okay, these are things that need to be done. These are the things I could help with at this point in the year. So to kind of look at it from at like a January, December kind of frame.
Yeah. And I'd love to get ahead of some stuff, because for me, like, it's really frustrating that the grants open in October, because it gives us so little time to prepare, because none of us have time in the summer to be working on cultural council stuff. So if we can like have stuff prepped in the spring that's ready to go out in the fall, that would just be like so helpful.
Yeah.
Okay, so does 4 o'clock still work for you guys? That it's really great for me.
And so what day would that be, Emma?
I'm
10th?
open to any days. Does
We're
anyone?
looking at end of January? Or
Yeah,
what are we
let's
looking
start
at?
with, does anyone have conflicts in January?
Yes, is it, do you think it's feasible to have a Google Calendar that we can put our unavailability on? Would that make it, is that too much work, or would it make it easier to schedule meetings, or?
That, I feel like that makes it harder.
Okay,
Respectfully.
Can I make a recommendation to you guys as you're planning your next meeting? So you have 14 days after you submit the denial letters for folks to, sorry, Justin's trying to get back in, for folks to appeal it. And technically, if someone appeals it, you guys will have to meet again to discuss that appeal. So you might want to plan a meeting for before that January 17th date. just so you're not scrambling. If someone does appeal it, you're not scrambling to try to put a meeting on the books.
So, because it's January 17th that we have to say who we're giving the money to, right?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Maybe that second week in January.
Well, January, I think it's the 10th would be 4 weeks from today, and that would give us time before the 17th. I don't know.
I kind of like the idea of setting a standing, every second Tuesday at 4, something like that. And that would be the 10th.
That would be great.
And then we don't.
So
then
what do
we
we,
can do that into our
Tuesday,
schedule.
January at 4? Is everyone available during that time?
I am.
Wait, so you said the 10th?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Justin, does that work for you?
Yeah, the 10th at 4 works for me. Are we
Okay.
talking about every month meeting though? I'm confused.
Possibly.
What did you mean, Tony? Okay.
I was just suggesting that as a possibility. It may or may not work, but if we are planning on having more regular meetings, having them on a regular day and time as opposed to.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Yeah, every month feels like a lot, but I'll defer to the group.
Do we want to set that now or set a meeting for January and then discuss making like a month?
Could we maybe talk about making it monthly through April? And then, because we have so much to catch up on, and then we can decide come April what's feasible for people.
I like that idea.
I like that idea. I'm in favor of that.
Agreed.
And do you guys want to keep on Zoom in case people are traveling?
Yes, please.
Says the guy who's going to be in Seattle.
Okay, so let's do the 10th. Well, let's just do the first Tuesday, the second Tuesday of the month at 4 on Zoom. Chantal, are you able to get that in for January?
I'll have to submit to town admin to make sure that that's signed. I'll
Okay.
let you guys know.
So
Ava,
the-
did you hear that doing the second
didn't, sorry, I ran
Tuesday?
into other room.
No
Go ahead.
worries. We were saying to do a meeting on the second Tuesday of the month through April.
was February 14th.
That sounds great. At 4?
Yeah, on Zoom.
February 14th, March 14th,
And then
Uh,
April 11th.
April 11th.
But starting
January
the
10th.
10th? Great.
Yeah.
That sounds great. Will you guys send a meeting request for us like you did last time, or? should I
Yeah,
just send
Chantal
on?
has to reach out to town admin and just make sure that date is available for us.
Great. Thank you.
I won't be at the March 14th meeting, I can tell you right now, but other than that.
Okay. We can also always, like, once we get to the February meeting, just confirm.
Well, I
The
mean,
next-
and if it's not something that needs to be voted on, I don't want to mess up everyone's schedule because of that. I know that I'm not available that day.
Okay.
Well, we could always discuss it, the meeting beforehand, as Emma's saying, and then since we have the framework, if we need to adjust by a day and people are available, I think that might work.
Great. Thank you.
Okay. Is there anything else anyone wants to talk about at this meeting? All right. I'm gonna work on sending some reminder emails and I will put in those denials online. And Ava, do you want to work together on that?
Yeah, we'll do that
Okay, great.
together and we'll make our calendar.
Yeah.
I'm pretty flex in early January to do that with you for sure.
Okay, perfect. All right. Do we have the
Motion to
motion?
adjourn? Would you
Thank you,
believe?
Michael.
I'll second your motion.
Yes.
Thanks, everyone. This was such a great meeting.
Thank you, Emma.
Very impressive.
Really
Thanks,
like
Emma.
it and having your energy back with the council. It makes it so enjoyable. Really
Thank
appreciate
you.
you.
And thanks for stepping up, Ava. Appreciate that.
Oh, my pleasure.
Thank you to
I was,
all of you.
I was hesitant to because I'm the newbie, but I was like, if no one else is doing it. Oh, I'm down. I'm a team player. And I do want to push us a little this year, guys, you know, to flex this. I think that it's important.
All
Great.
right, everyone have a great night.
Yeah, thanks, everybody.
Have a
Happy
good night.
holidays. Bye.
Happy
Bye.
holidays.